Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope you're doing great. This is Santiago Valencia coming at you. This is an episode that I've actually been looking forward to making for quite some time. It is the 25 top tips on how to get started in film composing and scoring for absolute beginners. So when I first started getting into this, there were a lot of information. There was a lot of information scattered all over the internet, scattered all over books and friends and teachers and everything. And I really kind of wish there was a place for me to just look up, what you needed, what you were looking into as far as a career, how much investment you had to figure out when it came to getting into this and building your own studio. So today I have comprised a list of about 25 items and tips that an absolute beginner might use to get into film composing. So let's get started because it's a pretty big list. I'm going to try to go as fast as possible. And here we go. Number one, you're going to need a computer. Duh, obviously. So I'm currently running an iMac 2017, running Mojave 10.14.6. I haven't upgraded to Catalina yet. Running a 3.8 Intel i5, 48 gigs of memory. I recommend at least having about 32 gigs, or at least getting yourself to about 32 gigs, because the samples and sounds that we're going to be using does take up a good amount of memory. So I think 32 is a good, a good solid middle ground. More is better, of course. Number two, choosing a DAW. This took me forever to figure out because I knew that there were a lot of DAWs out there. The majority of what people were using at the time was Logic, right? But honestly, I love Apple, but Apple did scare me a little bit with Logic for reasons we'll get into later when I do another episode on that. So I decided to actually go with Cubase. And I really, really, really love Cubase. I personally think, this is just my opinion, that Cubase, which we're now on Cubase Pro 10.5 as of today, is one of the best DAWs for film composers specifically, okay? So that's just my opinion, but there are tons of Logic users in this trade. FL Studio, Ableton, Digital Performer, et cetera. So you're gonna need a DAW, Digital Audio Workstation. So that's number two. Number three, a notation software. I do think you're gonna need one. Now, some people will say, well, why can't I use the notation software that's already built into my DAW? Because a lot of them do have them, including Cubase. But the reality is that they're sometimes stripped down. They're not very intuitive or easy to use. And the notation software specifically is what you're going to need in order to print out your scores and then deliver your specific parts for your instruments down the line. The top three right now are Finale, Sibelius, and new on the scene in the last few years is Dorico. That is my choice. Dorico Pro 3 is where we're at right now. I love it. It's great. I have a suspicion that in November around is where Steinberg updates their Cubase. Something tells me that this November, they might do something cool about joining Cubase with Dorico Pro 3. So at that point, it'll be Cubase 11, we assume. And I don't know, it's just kind of what I'm sensing. So we'll see how that turns out. But either way, I'm looking forward to the next update in November, supposedly. Okay, next, you're gonna need a hard drive. Yes, you have a hard drive in your computer, but it's always a great idea to have an external hard drive. If it's one that spins, great. But if it's an SSD, then that's even better. Your loads of your samples are going to go much, much faster on an SSD. I just installed an external SSD and found my loading time go from, no joke, from 1 minute down to about 4 seconds when it loaded all the sample. I was just amazed. So you're going to need that. If you do have an SSD or a hard drive, have another one. Back up your samples, because if something happens to that, you're gonna have a real pain in the neck trying to figure out how to download everything all over again. So that's a hard drive, an external hard drive. Next, an interface. I have an interesting experience with interfaces. At first, I had a PreSonus, which is a great one, but then in my personal experience, it crapped out on me. Right now, I have this one right here that you see, this little silver box, and that is the Antelope Audio Discrete 4, which was great. But unfortunately, again, my experience, it's starting to give me some issues, and I'm now going to be upgrading to Universal Audio X4, which I'm looking very forward to getting into that ecosystem of plugins and stuff like that. Check it out. Do your research on the interfaces. We need an interface. Why? Because we have to connect our speakers, and then our microphones plug into these interfaces in order for the audio to communicate with our computer back and forth, okay? So that's an interface. Number 6, you're gonna need a keyboard, a MIDI keyboard, in order to play in your parts, play in your string parts, your piano, your drums, whatever. I have an 88 key, which I love, but you don't need an 88 key, but I do recommend at least having maybe about 3 octaves worth of keys on your MIDI interface. Keyboard. So that's number 6. Number 7, microphones. Start off with something simple. Start off with maybe a Shure SM48, an SM57, an SM58, if you can do that. Those are all dynamic microphones. And then eventually you can upgrade to something a little bit more spectacular, a little, like a condenser microphone. Right here above my computer, you'll see that I have a Neumann TLM 103. Okay, great microphone. And then I also have this one here, which is a AKG C414 XL2. This one's great. It's very flexible. It allows you to choose different polar patterns and has some pad options on there, which the Neumann does not. So they're both great microphones. Do your research on that, but you are going to need some microphones. Why? If we're doing most of the stuff in the box. Because eventually you'll probably have a friend like a cellist or a violinist or whatever that you'll want to record. So you want to have yourself a good microphone in order to do that. Number 8, speakers, obviously. Starting off, maybe some Rocket, KRK Rocket 5, Rocket spelled ROKIT. Those run around $175 each. I have right here, as you can see, a Yamaha HS7, and those run around maybe about $300 each. And then you can upgrade if you want to. I'm looking forward to maybe upgrading to maybe an Atom Audio AX7, or is it an A7X, whatever like that. But you need speakers, and you need good ones, actually. Something that has maybe a flat response, which these Yamahas have, which are really great. Speakers. Next, number 9, headphones. You're going to need some headphones. There are 2 types of headphones, the closed back and the open back. Closed back are good for recording when you're recording into a microphone, so no sound bleeds out. Open back, there's openness on here for the air to come in and out, and those are great for mixing. Okay, so there are 2 kind of types, but you are going to need headphones eventually. Number 10, this is a really important one in my opinion. Get a good chair. We sit on our butts all the time doing this sort of stuff, and having a good chair with a good posture and all that sort of stuff is really, really important, because if not, you're going to get tired really, really quickly and start developing some back problems. So get a good chair. If you look at a lot of the YouTube videos with a lot of pros, they use the Herman Miller chairs, which are not cheap, but they're great, comfortable. So look into a good chair. Number 11, sample libraries. We need sounds. We need, orchestra samples in order to compose. No secret that my favorite is Spitfire Audio, but there are some other wonderful, wonderful companies as well, like Cinesamples, Orchestral Tools, 8DO, which is the number 8, DIO. Native Instruments, Project Sam. There are quite a few players on the field, so check them out. Warning though, there will be an investment on your samples. I think it's very possible that your samples might be your biggest investment. over time doing this sort of stuff. So just be aware. Number 12, orchestral books. Let's learn how to orchestrate. Let's learn how to compose. The main one that everyone uses, let me grab it. This one is kind of the Bible that everyone uses. This is the Study of Orchestration. Right now it's on the 4th edition, and it is by Samuel Adler. This is a book that is not cheap as well, but a lot of really good information is on this one. And this is the main staple book that everyone uses for orchestration. There are some other really, really good books as well. So do your research, but that is probably the most common. All right, number 13, study. You have to study. You have to learn how to compose, how to create a motif, leitmotif, counterpoint, all this sort of stuff. You can study online. You can study in person. I've done both. I've actually taken some classes at Berklee College of Music, as well as UCLA Extension in their film scoring program. Both are wonderful, wonderful schools. Right now, with what's going on in the world, with this lockdown, with COVID, online obviously is the way to go. And there are some really, really nice ones out there. Let me name a few. ThinkSpace, Cinematic Composing, Evident, Udemy. Those are just a few that I've actually purchased some courses on that are great. Let's see, or the alternative, maybe get a private tutor. Right now, again, everything's done through Zoom or through Skype, but that's something you definitely have to put on your plate as far as learning and studying how to go ahead and do this orchestration and film composing. All right, number 14, learn how to read scores. It's important to have your scores. This is a book of scores that I printed myself through a large format printer. The size of this is 11 by 17, which I think is a really, really good size book. And I printed these and then took it over to FedEx Kinko's and had them bound it here, okay? There are several scores in here, not just one, okay? And study scores. See how things work, see how things combine. And then it's also really important to learn how to read the scores. You'll find on my channel, there is a series on how to read a score. So check that out if you get a moment. But go ahead and learn how to read scores. That is number 14. Number 15. It's often said that Gustav Mahler, which is a composer from a few years back, is one of the first composers to give us our film scoring sound of what we might be used to today. So I might suggest to start maybe with Gustav Mahler and move forward to today's composers. Now, if you're going to be scoring something that is like a time period piece of the time of Beethoven or Bach or whatever, well, of course, you're going to want to study that as well. But a lot of recommendations to me have always been start with Mahler and move forward. But just take that with a grain of salt. But either way, you do have to study the composers and find out what they do, how they do it. And there you go. Number 15. Number 16. Better yet, learn by creating your own scores. Okay? Trial and error. Start with something simple. Start with like a violin part or a quintet or a quartet of strings and move from there. It's always better to learn by doing than by reading, okay? So a suggestion I might have for you is rebuild your favorite film scores yourself in your DAW. So you might want to take something from, I don't know, John Williams or, Hans Zimmer or whatever and then duplicate what you find on the score and put it on your DAW. That's a great way to learn how this whole thing works. Scoring and composing and orchestrating is kind of like painting, okay? You learn your primary colors, which are your instruments, and then you learn how to create different colors with your primary colors. So you're mixing your instruments together and creating unique sounds. And that's just pretty much how it works. So it's very much like painting. So learn your colors and learn to mix with them. Number 17, spot your favorite films. What does spot mean? So if you're a complete beginner, that means spotting a film. If you've sat down to look at a film, you're basically deciding where the music is going to go and where it's not going to go. So by spotting your favorite films, let me give you an example. Sit down and let's just say you're going to watch Star Wars, okay? You sit with a piece of pen and paper, watch it. Let's say it's 2 hours long, and then write, at 1 minute and 3 seconds, music comes in. Maybe do a description of what that music is or what that theme is. And then just go through the whole movie. And then you'll have eventually a big old list of all the music start times and all the music end times. And let's say in Star Wars, and I haven't done Star Wars specifically, but let's say that there's, maybe 50 pieces of individual music that go into that film. So that's spotting. So spotting your favorite films is a really useful thing to learn to do. So that is number 17. Number 18, never stop learning, okay? You're never gonna know it all. You're just never gonna know it all. So just remember that you have to keep learning, and things come out in this world so fast. So just keep that mentality that you don't ever know it all, and you're going to always need to keep learning, okay? Number 19, stay on top of music trends. This is extension of number 18. Stay on top of music trends and technology. Things change and advance very, very quickly in this trade, and you have to just keep on top of things. With classes, maybe YouTube channels that are telling you the latest gear that's coming out. Check out the latest movie or latest TV and see what they're doing with their score, see what they're doing with their sounds. So you have to really stay on top of that trend. Okay, number 20, stay a student. I am in my 30s plus a few years, and I have been a student as long as I can remember. Why? For two big reasons. One, I love to learn. I just love to learn. But two, it brings a lot of great advantages as well, especially when you're buying all your gear and all your samples, okay? I use my student discount all the time, okay? So I'll use my receipt or my student card or whatever to submit to places like Spitfire or Cinesamples or Apple or whatever, and they'll give you a discount simply because you're a student. And trust me when I tell you, this is an investment, okay? It is not exactly cheap, okay? And any discount we can use on buying the stuff over time is always a great thing. So stay a student and take advantage of your student discount. Number 21, John Williams says, write something every day. Write something every day. Enough said. Number 22, that being said, pen and paper, the way that John Williams does things, is great. It's a wonderful skill, okay? But in the year 2020, it doesn't always cut it unless you're John Williams, okay? Therefore, you must learn to not just be a great composer, but also great at recording, mastering, mixing, editing MIDI. Basically, you have to also turn into an audio engineer. Why? Because in this 2020 year that we're in, we're expected to be a one-stop shop, okay? So we basically have to know how to do it from beginning to the end. It's not just a creative trade, but a technical one that sometimes even requires having math solving skills. So keep that in mind. It is a technical trade that we're in. Number 23. Next, learn how to record and mix and master. Duh. So you might have to take a class on how to do that. What's an EQ do? What's a compressor do? What does, a bus? What is a bus in your DAW or a group track? How do we get, what is 96K 24-bit? What is all that stuff? You have to learn all that sort of stuff in order to be competitive. And there are a lot of people competing for that job that you want. So you have to be very competitive and know your stuff. Okay. Number 24, you have to love the medium. Okay. It's interesting to me that sometimes people will try to get into this and they're not exactly huge movie fans or TV fans, and I don't know if that works, I adore the movies. I love TV, but I really adore the movies. Right now, during this lockdown, the biggest thing I miss is going to the movies. By far, the biggest thing that I miss. So I will be very, very happy when the movie theaters open back up. But point is, you got to love the medium. You got to love movies. You got to love TV in order to do a fantastic job at this. All right, number 25. Network with others, make friends, and make connections. It's never too early to do this, okay? Now, are you going to be friends with the high ups? Probably not, but you can make friends and connections with people that are starting at your level. And over time, you will all move up together. And one day, one connection will lead you to another. That might lead you to a great opportunity. So it's never too soon to network. All right. And here's a bonus one, number 26. Be patient with yourself. This takes years and a good amount of investment of money. And I know I said that before, but it is true. I'm not going to tell you how much I've spent because my wife will kill me. But let me assure you that it is a fair investment that one has to make in order to make all this a reality, in order to build your recording or writing studio. Just when you think you've bought pretty much everything you need, there is a new sample that just came out. Spitfire. I don't know how these guys do it, but they come out with the new library like every other freaking day. It's crazy. They just came out with the BBC orchestra, which sounds amazing. But that's not cheap, So you have to be prepared to make that investment over time, of course. Start small and move your way through. All right. So thank you very much for sticking with me on this. I hope this list helps of 25, 26 tips for an absolute beginner thinking about getting into film composing and scoring. Stick around. I will have some more videos coming out very, very shortly. And if you have any questions or comments, if you disagree with anything I've said or want to add to anything, go ahead and put it below. That'd be great. We'll all learn from it, okay? Until then, thank you very much. I'm Santiago Valencia. It's been a real slice and a pleasure. Have a great night. Bye-bye.